Today we're doing something a little bit different in that once a month we're looking to have a carrier or someone along those lines come in and just either give a presentation on a sales concept or a unique product. And I believe we have that today. But since I am not the life person, Amy, I'm going to hand it over to you. And Steve,
Thanks,
you do
Jim.
have full controls.
Uh-oh. Watch out, everybody. I got control. I'm just kidding.
Troy should have controls.
Okay.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. Certainly appreciate it. I have two of my favorite people with North American on here. We've got Troy Hammond and Steve Zimmerman. They're going to be the experts and cover a lot of things for us regarding their new products, their term product, and how it's very, very different from anything you've seen out there. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Troy and Steve.
Hey, Troy, do you want to kick things off and get going on, then I'll jump in, or how would you like to do this?
Yeah, first from a housekeeping standpoint, are you guys seeing my full screen on the presentation, Steve? Like
we are.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yes, well, thank you, everyone, and I want to appreciate everybody's time taken out of your busy day on today, Hump Day on a Wednesday. We couldn't be more excited. My name is Troy Hammond. I'm the internal wholesaler for the group at DMI and Amy's team, and then I'm joined by our regional vice president out of Connecticut, Steve Zimmerman. So we couldn't be more excited to talk to you about one of our, we normally don't do a lot of products, but what we've got requested was, hey, term is it's a transactional sale. And what we went through last year in 2020, we had record submissions on our term and GUL. So Amy's like, let's talk about your term. So we're excited to talk to you guys about our living benefits on our term and a lot of other different things that make us really unique on our term. And honestly put, it's really a great door opener too in the life insurance industry. So with that said, Steve, I'll kick it over to you and any opening comments and we'll get this thing going.
Okay. Hey, Troy, thanks so much. Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. We probably got about 25 minutes of material we'd like to cover with you. And Amy, thank you so much for letting us join you.
Of course.
It's very much mutual. We love the relationship with you and DMI. So this is it's a high point of our week, being able to be here with you. So what we want to do today was really bring you some ideas and some thoughts on how maybe you can expand your business. Maybe you go back to some existing clients and maybe find some new business opportunities. And, another thing is, it's a way to, expand, maybe to get some new prospects, so like Troy's got the screen. Why are we here today? Number one, it's harder to see people, with the virus and everything and the vaccines. We're hoping one of these days, it's going to get easier to, get to see people, but it's not really, we're not like we like it to be, so number one, it's harder to see people. Number two, hey, it's all about you guys on the call. We want to help you ring the cash register and make some money. And then, it's kind of all about our clients. So we're going to walk you through a story today, and it's really about term insurance. And you're like, oh my God, you don't bore me with term insurance. It's kind of like a commodity type product. Well, you know what? If you sell term insurance, we've got a new way to approach this. If you don't really sell term insurance, maybe just once in a while when somebody asks you for it, this could be the jet fuel to take your life business to the next level for client engagement in 2021. So let's think about the agenda in three things. We're going to do three things with you right now. Number one, let's look at the script. Let's look at how term insurance is sold, and let's maybe rethink that. Let's rewrite the script. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the new life insurance. The new life insurance. Troy, you got some cool things you like to add there. So I'm gonna have you jump in and out of this, and then the third thing is we've got a plan to help you sell more in less time. And I don't know about you, but I don't have enough time. If I could sell more in less time, have some extra time to go do the stuff I like to do, I'm all about that. So let's start with the script. How is term insurance sold today? It's probably sold if you're involved in selling term insurance. You get a call from a client and they say, hey, I'm looking for a policy. Can you get me 3 quotes? I'm going to pick the cheapest number. It's people do it on their own. They go on like termquotes.com. So isn't the process for selling term insurance, it's really just like it's a number. It's picking the cheapest number or the lowest number. It's kind of a commodity, right? So how can we change this? How can we take this product and decommoditize it? So that's kind of what we're all about. Term insurance historically has been numbers, spreadsheet. And the other thing is if you as the advisor are presenting that, you don't have a lot of control, right? So if you give somebody your 3 best rates, what if they go find another number? Then boom, you're blown out of the sale. So, Troy, any comments or thoughts on kind of big picture where we're going here?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, that's where the industry's gotten, Steve. And Amy, you and team know that as well. A lot of agents, advisors out there, they're looking for the cheapest term out there, right? They're spreadsheeting it. The problem is that you devaluate the term, right? You're looking for the cheaper, and cheap's a bad adage in this industry, but inexpensive is probably a more term that's acceptable. But when you talk about cheap, you think about something cheap, whether we'll talk about taking that and putting it into our life instances on cars and food. And Jimmy does a great job telling that story in a little bit. So I don't want to rain on your thunder at all there, Steve, but that's where what we want to do is throw that spreadsheet to the curb. You're getting what you're getting. You get what you pay for, right? So if you're literally selling all day long the cheapest term, at the end of the day, that's really what you're getting. And we'll talk about two of the things we're really excited about as we go forward in this presentation on why look at North American and why look at the term from our product standpoint.
Great. Hey, thanks, Troy. Hey, why don't you move forward, and why don't we do this? Let's just, as we get into the selling on value, let's kind of set things up to give you context and where we're going with this. So first things first, what kind of car do you drive? Do you drive the cheapest car? I mean, you can buy a brand new Nissan in 2021. It's going to cost you about 14 grand. But did you know, many of you may drive a truck, an F-150, F-250. The Ford F-150 historically has been the most popular vehicle in the country. But the base price to get in there, the starting price to get into the base F-150 is about 28 grand. It's double the cost of that low entry Nissan. Why do people pay more? Well, it's value, it's perceived value, it's certain things they like, it's luxury, it's utility. They don't mind paying more when they perceive value. Hey, what about where do you go to eat? You know what? There's a Subway down the street from me. I get a coupon in my local paper, $5, foot long, soda, cookie, bag of chips, and it's great. Do you go there every time? No. I mean, on my birthday last year, we went to Ruth's Chris. I wanted a big steak about this big. Yeah, and it's like you go places like that because it's value, it's special. You don't mind paying a little bit more when you perceive it's valuable. So then the last one I would just say, I live in Connecticut. We have Stop and Shop here. You've got whatever your stores are, your big box grocery stores. But when you go to the grocery store, you're pushing your cart. Do you always pick the store brand? I was with my wife a few weeks ago. We were getting ready for Christmas and New Year's, and my wife said, go get a big thing of olive oil. So I went, found it. I brought back the big jug of store brand olive oil. I thought I was okay. I thought I got it done. I did my job. I put it in the cart, and she said, not so fast. I said, what? I was going off to get the brownies. She said, I want you to go get that fancy Bertolli, the fancy brand. So I ended up paying $10 more for a big jug of that. I think it was the same product, but I paid $10 more because the label was nicer and my wife liked it. So you get where I'm going there. We routinely pay more when we perceive value, and that's kind of where we're going here. So, you think about this. In the absence of value, people pick the cheapest options. But when we perceive difference, we don't mind paying a little extra. Right. So, hey, guys, and Amy or, Jim, do you guys want to jump in any comments? I mean, this is kind of your show as much as ours. I mean, we can keep going. I just want to give you a chance to jump in if you guys have any thoughts too.
I'm always a big proponent of you get what you pay for.
Okay.
Says
good.
the one that tried 3 cheap iPods and finally bought the AirPods. Okay. There's a perfect example of right before Christmas. I'm like, no, I'll buy the cheap ones. Wrong. The cheap ones are the cheap ones for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think anybody that has AirPods and has tried to play with those knows exactly what I'm talking about and can laugh at me for that. But hey, I learned. It's just better to go spend the money up front and be done with it.
Yeah. And Steve, on my side, I've always been an advocate of whether it's for term insurance or the fixed annuity, the MIGA product, is that like you think you hit it on the head. It's a commodity purchase. The client finds out what they're looking for, and then whatever either has the lowest rate or the highest return, that's what you go with. So that's why I was very intrigued on this presentation today to see what the difference is between your term and all the other terms out there.
Hey, great. Thanks for the comments, guys. Hey, so Troy, I'm going to finish up. This is kind of, I think, the page that puts everything into perspective. And then in a second, I'm going to hand it off to you to take on the second part of the new kind of life insurance. So you know what, if we just summarize here, this example, really, the picture says 1,000 words. when you talk in generalities, you get the concepts, but let's take a look at this. How much more are we really paying? So the North American term has living benefits. You see on the box on the right side of your screen, you get living benefits, accelerated death benefit for critical, chronic, and terminal. Now, many of you that sell life insurance, you're comfortable and familiar with chronic long-term care type acceleration. So if you're in a long-term care situation, Alzheimer's disease, we accelerate the death benefit. Term insurance, though, isn't it usually kind of a younger client? So the critical illness, cancer, strokes, heart attacks is really where we see clients really perk up and get interested here. You can accelerate up to 90% of the death benefit, up to $1 million on this term product. So, you don't pay extra premium for it up front. So the way this product is, it's not a rider you select. There's not extra premium you pay. It's the base contract. You get accelerated death benefit for those chronic, critical, and terminal. So in addition to that, you can convert to our entire portfolio of permanent products, which these days is becoming more and more special or more and more rare. So let's just take a look at numbers. This is a chart that we pulled a few months ago. I went on, termforsale.com. It was just an independent third-party site. And I just said, male 45, best class, $500,000, 20 term, and sort from lowest premium. So you see there the names you come to know: Protective, Banner, Principal. But then when you look at the North American product, the bottom on the list, it's basically $2 to $3 a month more than the lowest cost options. So what we're seeing is, there's an enormous amount of consumer interest these days because people are worried about their health and mortality. And when you see that on a monthly basis, you're talking about a buck or two, maybe $3, that's where people say, hey, look, I'm not so sure I care about the lowest, cheapest price. I kind of like those living benefits I get to go with it. And for that small incremental difference in price, that's what's driving this. So that's kind of the key. It goes back to, in the absence of value, people pick the cheapest option. But where we clearly see value here, that couple of bucks a month really becomes irrelevant. And it makes the competition irrelevant too. So, hey, Troy, why don't you pick it up now and kind of talk about the new life insurance, the positioning. We've got a cool idea here, but let's talk a little bit about how you start the conversation with the client, the positioning, how we sell this stuff.
Yeah, and before we go on to that, that was well put, Steve, on what we're looking at. And we just wanted to share this in the pricing of, just to give you an idea how, like Jim talked about earlier too, how commoditized term is, right? It's a transactional sale, so it's ultra competitive. So you can see all these top name companies, including ourselves, how close we are from, number 6 to number 1. So it's literally a couple bucks a month. So that's the value of it. And one thing I would say too, on like Steve said, our term, if you didn't catch it, critical, that's your cancer, your heart attack, strokes. You can access up to 90% of your death benefit typically on a tax-free status for critical. Okay, normally a company, if they have living benefits, the terminal, the life expectancy of 24 months or less is usually your high percentage one. So for us, the most common one, your cancer, heart attack, stroke, organ transplants, et cetera, and critical, you can advance almost 90% of that. So that's a huge talking point. And if we look back, rewinding a little bit to last fall, September is Life Insurance Awareness Month. It's very popular for a lot of us on this call. I always like to put a story to something. And one of the stats that LIMRA provided was 65% of bankruptcies in this country are tied to some catastrophic illness. Okay, that's where this life insurance can really come in and help. So that's the new life insurance. So that's how we kind of position it is. If you're doing policy reviews, annual reviews with clients, and you're looking at an old, maybe it's an IUL or a VUL or a whole life policy, the question you should be asking nowadays too when you're doing that is, hey, by the way, do you have the new or old kind of life insurance? Okay, if you wrote it, you probably know, but it's kind of a rhetorical question, and the client's always going to come back with, what the heck do you mean by that? Well, this new life insurance, like we talked about, has the living benefits. Okay, so we can kind of see it here. It's that extra protection. The old policies, if we look at old term life insurance, right, it provided basically two things: a death benefit. As mortal as it sounds, the policy is going to benefit the beneficiary when the client dies, right? That was life insurance. And also the terminal illness. That's been around for quite some time. But now these new products, the new benefits, we've got still the death benefit, right? That's the cornerstone of life insurance. But we also have what we call at North American CCT. The critical, the chronic, and the terminal. And then Steve also mentioned the conversion privileges. We can't forget about that. Our products are convertible to any of our current marketable products, not just one or two inferior products. Like a few companies might have that, they're convertible, but the product's not very competitive. So you can convert to any of our current products that we're selling. And also, if you guys are doing any IUL, any advanced sales like life insurance, retirement planning, maybe some LERP sales, and you have that, let's say the Builder +2 for your cash accumulation, and the client says, well, we designed that minimum death benefit max cash, right? That I still need more death benefit. Well, write a supplemental term on the side, because what we allow you to do, I think we're one of the only companies that you can do this, but you can convert that term into that existing IUL. You don't have to start a new IUL. You can go to that existing one without new surrender charges. So now you're buying more in death benefit without proven insurability, because that's the whole thing, is if the client wants to put more into that IUL, they can't, right? Without it turning into a MEC if we design it as minimum DB. And what if they're uninsurable? What if they're not super preferred anymore? Maybe they're standard table 2 after 10, 15 years. Well, take that other term and partially convert it or fully convert it and buy more death benefit without any evidence of insurability. So got into the weeds a little bit, but that was something I wanted to bring up. It's kind of a new cool feature. And I know we're kind of nearing our time here, so I'll speed things up, but just remember the CCT, the critical, your cancer, heart attack, chronic, very popular. That's more of a long-term care, right? If the client can't meet 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, you're bathing, your continence, feeding themselves, they can advance the death benefit tax-free. The nice thing is our verbiage, you don't have to be permanently chronically ill. It can be a temporary thing. We see that a lot, maybe in a car accident where the client's laid up maybe for 3-4 months, right? Need some help, but they're going to eventually come out of it. So our verbiage from a legal standpoint, you don't have to be permanently chronically ill. And then terminal illness, one of the most, one of the older ones, but life expectancy less than 24 months, and we can get up to 90%. I won't break this down, but this is a sheet we can provide you. It gives our conversion periods. The thing to note on this is if you convert the term anytime in the first 5 years, you will automatically get the living benefits on your new policy without any evidence of insurability. Okay. After that 5th year, there's a health questionnaire, kind of a health statement. So just something to keep in mind. But most of our term, folks, is convertible through the whole period, depending on the issue age. And a lot of the times at minimum, it's to age 75. So the last thing I'll finish up with, Zim, and then I'll kick it back to you if you want me to talk right away.
Sure. Hey, Troy, I just want to tie up one thing.
Yeah.
Just kind of, you said that really well, but I think just to think about that second section, the first one was sell on value. The second section is the new life insurance. For those of you that do this every day, or if this isn't something you do every day, if you just take away that simple question that Troy mentioned, do you have the new or old kind of life insurance? That's the way to start a conversation. And what are the clients going to do? They're going to look at you and say, well, I have no clue. What do you mean? The new kind of life insurance, as Troy said, you don't have to die to get something out of it. So that's going to, then the conversation would progress to, well, I don't know. Can you help me? Can you look at that? That's what you want to do. So, with Jim and Amy, the DMI team, Troy and I can help. If you get a copy of your client's last annual statement, if we see what kind of company or the name of the carrier, what kind of policy it is, when it was issued, we're going to see premiums and cash values. Right off the bat, we're going to have a pretty good idea what it is. We're going to help you if it's a prospect that you should maybe be thinking about a new policy. You can also go down the path of a real simple way of taking another look at the death benefit. Hey, you got a $100,000 policy. How'd you pick that number? We can make your life simple, how to go back and look at policies, rethink the amount of coverage, and we've got a real simple, repeatable process that if you want to do that, that's something that we see some of the top life producers last year still selling like crazy. So that's probably to keep it simple. We have tools that we can help you with there. So if you take one thing from the call, that's your action plan. So thanks, Troy.
Awesome. Yeah. Good. Thanks, Steve. And one thing we learned last year in 2020, probably the most challenging year for all of us on this call is, seeing people, seeing them in person was very difficult. So what we want to do is we change a lot of things, doing business when you can't see the clients in person, right? Sell more in less time. We talked about term today. We don't want to plug up the, DMI's new business process and with a bunch of term apps. If it happens, that's great. But what we've done now is everything's electronic for the most part. So we're not plugging up things. You know, we want your term sales. We want those transactional sales. And hopefully you see the, you know, the energy we're bringing today that, you know, we're talking term, maybe one of the most boring concepts, but man alive, are we getting business from it? And everybody on the call, you can make a lot of extra supplemental income by selling term life insurance. And the thing that's changed with it, if we go back even a year ago, is Simple Submit e-app. You can do these electronically. You can still do the paper app, but the biggest thing we added was the right-of-way non-fluid underwriting, folks. Honestly, put a lot of the term sales, you're going to have death benefits under 2 million, under $1 million. So anybody age 18 to 50 up to 2 million, they can go through our accelerated underwriting. And all it is an online part 2. So there's not even a telephone interview. We will, once you submit that application, we will email the online part 2 to the client and they can fill that out at their discretion. You can even still be at their kitchen table. It literally will take 2 minutes and that'll get emailed back to them. So if you're the advisor sitting with your client, you could actually fill it out with them. E-delivery, we've added e-delivery now to our policies. Okay, so you can deliver to the client their policy without having to see them. Okay, and the right away, again, 18 to 50 up to 2 million, 51 to 60 up to $500,000, they can go through that simplified underwriting platform. And then also, I should have switched slides, my apologies. So I've got it on the screen now. Also, we've reduced the data score requirement. And what that means, basically, it's easier for the clients to qualify for it. Okay, we've gotten much more liberal, if you will, from an underwriting standpoint. So folks, we're seeing cases get issued in a couple days. So the days of ordering the paramed, doing an APS on a client that's 35 years old, ultra healthy for $1 million term, those days are gone. So a lot of positive things happen in 2020, if you can believe it or not, but we learned a lot of things about process and business, and it comes down to submission to commission. You submit it, we want to pay you comp as soon as possible. Steve, did you want me to summarize it, or do you want to land this plane?
You know what? Why don't you go ahead, man? I'm enjoying sitting back watching you work.
It's not work when you're having fun, but
it's true. It's true. You go for it, my man.
So yeah, I know. And Amy and Jim, if there's any questions, we can do a Q&A at the end if there's any questions, but we're about done here. So in the summary, the new sales script, we really want to educate the financial professionals, advisors on the call, kick it to the curb, right? Kick that spreadsheet to the curb. You're going to get what you pay for, like Amy said. So look at North America, the living benefits, the conversion privileges for a couple extra bucks more a month. New life insurance, if you're going to take away one thing, take away that question that Steve and I have talked about, Amy, you have new life insurance or the old life insurance. That's a good conversation starter. And improved process with DMI's robust new business team and everything they can do. And then North American on the side to take that app and get it done as quick as possible. You're selling more in less time is really what it comes down to. So we will send this to Amy and Jim to our marketing toolkit. We won't go over it today, but that's a place, it doesn't require login, that you can find anything and everything on our products, brochures, living benefits, recorded webinars. So I would just challenge you, pick 3 clients. Like Steve said, do a policy review. See if what you sold them years ago is still performing like it was when it was illustrated, okay? That's an option even on the permanent side to open up some sales for you. You know, order an in-force ledger from your company. Whether it's us, we can easily do that too. And then we'd like to follow up with you. We'd like to build a relationship. Maybe we can get the Teddy list and we can send out a welcome email, a follow-up email, anything of that nature. We're here in partnership with our friends at DMI. So we want to thank Amy and Jim for setting this up and allowing us to come on and talk to you folks this afternoon. And we couldn't be more excited to see what the future holds for us.
Good, good. Hey guys, I just have one kind of wrap up thought too as well from Steve and Troy's side. And then, you know, Amy and Jim, I'd love to kick it to you guys. Yep. You probably have some comments or, you know, some wrap up thoughts as well. I would just say, you know, we're thrilled to be here. Hopefully you found this information helpful. We will follow up and send you the link to that website that was on that last slide that Troy showed you. There's a wealth of information there. There is content that's suited for you, the advisor, on how this stuff works, ways you can start the conversation, things like that. But we also have equally as large amount of consumer-proof materials that if you want to send a flyer to somebody, you want to send a video and an email to somebody to kind of get them thinking about the things we're talking about, we've got some really, really great materials that can make your life easier. So, you know, think of us as part of the DMI team. We're here to go to work for you guys. We hope this is not just one time, you never see us again, but think of us as part of the team. We hope you have just a great life insurance year, and let's make sure it happens. So, you know, Amy and Jim, I'd like to kick it back to you guys. We're just happy to be here.
Thank you so much, guys. Certainly appreciate all your great insight on the new product. Anybody have any questions? We'll just kind of kick it off right there.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to type it in the Q&A and we can ask Steve and Troy. Actually, I have a question. For being someone who hasn't sold life insurance in God knows how many years, typically when I was in production in my younger days, we would use term insurance specifically for those young families that are starting out, you know, just because they can't afford a permanent type policy. Now it's interesting that you have the living benefits on here. I mean, I can see for a young family capitalizing on the living benefits if, you know, they get into a car accident or something like that. But what do you guys see as the typical target market for this type of product? Is it younger, older, everything? That was my first question.
You know, great question, Jim. And I would just say there's really not one demographic I think this is suitable to. I mean, obviously, you know, if you start at the younger ages and work our way through, what you just said is right on. You could have a couple that's between 30 and 45. They got a couple kids, they both work, but you know, those dollars are getting pulled in a lot of different directions. They need just death benefit. And if something happens to them, they need death benefit more than they need extra savings right now. But with this, the accelerated death benefit for no extra cost, it's a nice way to get some extra benefits. You know, then as you get to kind of the higher income years, 40 to 60, you know, we'll often use life insurance as an accumulation tool. So a permanent life product where you solve for the minimum death benefit and then we produce cash and income. But often when we do that, we don't have enough death benefit for the pure risk management needs. So that, you know, it's still appropriate there. But what I would tell you guys, I don't know, I always like to talk about myself, my personal situation, my mom had an awful battle with cancer. You know, they were one of the ones Troy referred to when he said 60% of the people get wiped out financially, because my parents unfortunately are gone. They died bankrupt, and my mom's cancer kind of wiped them out. You know, so we can issue up to age 75. So I would say even clients 60, 65, 70, you know, there could be a need from a living benefit perspective, from a legacy planning perspective, that the term insurance is still appropriate. You know, so it really isn't just pigeonholed into one area, but that's a great question.
Okay, we do have a question here from our friend Susanna, and I'm going to read it verbatim. Or Amy, can you see it or not?
Yep. Total life expectancy considered in chronic illness claims. She had a client's spouse who bought a policy with living benefits before she'd met them. She had a very legitimate claim, but was denied because of her life expectancy. She is young. Do you know, Susanna, what carrier was that with? I'm going to see if she can.
Hey, Troy, well, I got a couple of thoughts, but why don't you take that one this time, and we can also, okay, Mutual of Omaha, but why don't you take that one and I'll jump in maybe.
Yeah, I don't know the situation with Mutual and how that one's set up, but there is underwriting on the back end on our term living benefits. We do, and I think most companies do this on term. Now, permanent, we didn't talk permanent at all today, but that's a totally different discounting method on the permanent. That's kind of a different side story. But as far as term on the living benefits, morbidity does come into play underwriting. So the good and bad of it, you could in some situations get a ton more living benefits on our term than you could our permanent. But there's some situations where, yeah, you might not get as much on the term as you would the permanent because we look at morbidity. So there's a great report on our software called the Changing Needs Report, where you can actually put in 4 different ages on chronic and say, hey, what if this client accelerated on chronic at 80 or 85, 90, 95, and then critical, you can put in an age, and it'll give you kind of a good idea of the 3 risks. And there's, you know, moderate and then all the way up to severe. So yeah, it does kind of depend on the severity from a morbid standpoint on what you get on the living benefits on the term. So great question.
Yeah. And then we had another one. Explain how fast you can accelerate the benefits.
You can advance them day 2 of the contract. There's no waiting period on when that. There's a 90-day elimination period from a physician certification standpoint that you have to satisfy, but you could file the claim with us day 2 of the contract. There's no stipulation. And then also, maybe the question was, well, what's the maximum age, knucklehead? There is no maximum age or minimum age on that as well. So.
Okay. Hey, you well said. I would just add one thing as far as how this is calculated. There's two ways you can pay for this. Nothing's free. So with the way this product works, there's no additional rate upfront charged. So when you buy this product, you're not paying extra for it. What happens is on the back end, we'll do some calculations at the time of the submission or the request for the acceleration of death benefit. So at that point, like Troy said, we're going to look at two primary factors. We're going to look at the severity of your situation, and we're going to look how many years you're into the contract. So if you bought a 20-year term policy, if you're only a year into it, we're going to give you more acceleration potential than if you're 19 years into it. It's kind of correlated to how much value is still embedded left in the contract. So then the other lever that you're looking at is the severity. So if you have a more severe, and if we're saying critical, if you have cancer, you have heart attack, something, the more severe your situation is, the earlier you are in the term duration, the more money we'll give you. If you have a less severe occurrence or situation and you're towards the end of the term product, you may not be able to pull as much out because there's less residual or unearned embedded value in the contract. So the recommendation I would say is a couple ways to position this. Number one, people don't always love the ambiguity on the back end, but they love the fact they don't pay anything for it up on the front end. The other way you can look at accelerated death benefits on life products is there's the true long-term care products. For example, you have to have a health license, your health underwritten, you pay more up front, and you have more of a certain benefit on the back end. That's great, but there's a lot more aggravation that goes into it. The way this one works here is no health license, no mortality or morbidity underwriting at the time of applying for the policy, no upfront cost. On the back end, you get the majority of your money, but there is that haircut. So that's how it works.
Well put.
Great questions, everybody. Anybody else have more questions?
Yeah, great questions. Thanks.
Yeah, looks like we're good to go, and we 30 minutes in and out. Guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, on behalf of Amy and DMI, we really appreciate you guys coming in, talking about a unique product. I always look at it this way: the more arrows you have in your quiver, the better an advisor or an agent you're going to be. So we really do appreciate this. And if there's no more questions, I would say we would be pretty much good to go. So everyone, thanks for joining us. We will see you next Wednesday, where Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the topic is going to be how to run a Zoom meeting.
It is going to be how to run a Zoom meeting. Obviously, the four of us have mastered it, but for those of you that haven't, we're going to help you out. And I'm sure we'll have Troy and Steve back in again too, guys. So this will not be the last time. It will not be a one and done. You will see them again, I promise. So they're wonderful partners to have, and we super appreciate them.
See you guys.
Alrighty.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Take care.